Good morning, good afternoon, or good night, my fellow Chibits. Today, I'm here to bring all of you a Tokyo Ghoul video focusing on CCG's Reaper, Arima. I've been wanting to make a video kind of focused on Arima since I read Tokyo Ghoul Read Chapter 82 this weekend, and that is why I actually made the Blank Testament video, kind of like a tribute to Arima in his final time he's going to be living in the series. I made that video kind of as a tribute. And I wanted to make a discussion video on this because I just wanted to say my overall thoughts and the message I was trying to relay in that video I made, and also talk about more critical points. Because many are wondering, did Arima really have any purpose? And some are even saying that they don't really feel anything for Arima at all. They have no feelings at all for Arima's death. And so today, I'm here to kind of give more information on Arima and kind of interpret Arima's character the way I see it. So, the best way to really dive into this, and the way I interpret Arima, is by the way I showed in the music video I made, the Blank Testament. Arima is a type of character that is a blank slate. He's a character that's completely blank, and we can dye him in any color since he's completely white. We can dye him as the big bad guy that is the ultimate villain. We could dye him as someone that is a great father figure. We could dye him as someone that is a really great person to admire as a person in the workforce that annihilates ghouls. I mean, there's many ways to interpret his character. Either a stubborn person, someone that is very, I guess, quiet and doesn't want to talk, someone that is very proud, someone that's respectable, just different emotions and ways you can describe Arima. And the main thing is about Arima's character is that all these things can really describe him, because it can and can't. He is a character that has so much mystery around him that Ishida wrote his character to where we have to interpret what type of personality or what type of person he really is. And I really like how Ishida designed Arima's character since the very beginning. And I really like the way Arima, even in the end, with his death, he died thanks to his own hands, not thanks to something else. He is the one that put his own self down. The strongest CCG agent ever to walk, the strongest human, Arima, was put down by his own hands. No ghoul killed him. It was his own hands that finally ended his life. It's very poetic in a way, but also it's in a way to show how powerful Arima was, what type of impact he had, and also how his character could be interpreted. And the big thing I want to discuss is that many can really put their own thoughts and viewpoints on him. They can say he was a great father, they could say he was a shitty person, but I feel like that's what makes his character very amazing. Now, talking about some things about him, what was his reason? What was his reason for killing himself? Why did Arima slit his own throat? Why did he do it? That is the big question. And the easiest question is because Kaneki answered that he didn't want to kill Arima, and so Arima's only choice was to slit his throat. But there has to be more here. There has to be more meaning. There has to be a reason why Arima, of all people, someone with this type of character, with his personality from what we have already seen, and someone has been built up for this long, why of all things would he slit his own throat? And it wasn't in the normal fashion as you would see in Japan, of how they would slit their gut and have their organs or intestines fall out. It wasn't like that type of suicide. It was a completely different manner that was rather tragic and sad. And some Chibits actually pointed this out in the comments. I take no credit for this whatsoever. But some Chibits pointed out in my live reaction that if you look in Arima's eye, which I see it now that I see it on the page, if you look closely, you see a tear coming out of Arima's eye. You actually see a tear, and this can be interpreted as sadness, loneliness, and you know, it's very sad when you see Arima, of all people that show no emotions throughout the entirety of TG, actually have a tear. And there was only one point in time, I think, in the entirety of the series, or maybe 2 points in the entirety of the series, we have seen Arima show any type of emotion at all. One point was in the Christmas chapter, the side chapter with Christmas, where Kaneki actually gave Arima a present. And Arima was like, thank you very much, and then he smiled. And that was like one of the first times we've ever seen Arima really show any emotions, but it was really quick, it was just one panel. And then later on in this fight we get to see where Kaneki, he actually finds the reason to live. He wants to live, and then Arima has a little smirk. You see like some form of little smirk going on with the zoom in on his face. I showed it in the music video if you didn't see. I tried to make sure everybody can kind of interpret his character the way I was interpreting it. But the main point is Arima is someone that lacks emotion. He doesn't show a lot of emotion. And him showing a tear, it opens up a big window for us to see. Why would he have a tear? Why would he do this? Is it because he didn't want to kill himself? Or was it because he was sad for what he had to do? Was he sad because he finally was defeated? Or was that tears of happiness knowing that his child grew up and was able to find a reason to live and wouldn't turn out like him? Which that is the point I want to get into. Throughout the entirety of TG Re, there's one key focus that this entire part 2 of TG has had, and that would be kind of wrapped around parents, or maybe Kaneki wanting a family, and that's something he's always wanted. I've discussed this in many videos in the past. The entire part about the QS, they were like children to Kaneki. It was like a family he never had. It was something he always wanted. A very good family he can talk to, spend time with, laugh with, and get sad with. He wanted a family. That's what he always wanted when he was younger. And then when you see this, throughout how he finally has someone as a father figure and a mother figure, and throughout majority of this, he's looking at Arima as his dad, someone that has raised him and someone that's teaching him how to be a better person. And then throughout this entire fight, Arima actually teaches Kaneki to live, or tries to stall long enough where he doesn't hurt Kaneki, for Kaneki can find the reason to continue on walking down the path and not die. And I love that. I love how Arima's character was trying to do that. And that's how you can interpret this entire fight. Arima was teaching his son to live the entire time. Even though Kaneki, in his mind, he was thinking about how Hide was the one that told him to live and not die in style, but to live in style in a way. It was still, in a way, the reason why this popped up was thanks to Arima. Arima was the one that reminded Kaneki to continue living, and I love that. I absolutely love that. But then the ironic part is that after all of this with the father teaching the son to live, the father takes his own life. And the most tragic part about this was that the father didn't die in style. He died in one of the most tragic ways possible. His son looks at him in the face, and then he slits his throat. That is not a way to die in style, and maybe that is why Arima is sad. Who knows? Like I said, you can interpret this in many different ways. But let's look at this. Why would Arima go so far? Why would he keep Kaneki alive? Like, let's go back to the beginning. The first time Kaneki faced Arima, when he fought him underground, and Kaneki was going crazy. He just pretty much was out of control, and he faced Arima for the first time. Arima, he could have killed Kaneki. We all know this. He could have easily have killed Kaneki. And there's many theories and speculations around this entire event of why or how and why Arima saved him and all that. But I'm not going to get into that. But the main thing is that Arima let him live. But why did he let him live? My only assumption is that Arima wanted Kaneki to probably be stronger than him for he could finally face defeat. Because let's go back a couple of pages in the recent chapter. After Arima asks this, he asks this to Kaneki. Have you no intention of killing me either then? Question mark. And the Kaneki replies, I do not. Next page, Arima looks straight up into the sky, and he's like, defeat, huh? And then after that, he just talks about how for 18 years I have been an investigator. And yet, this is the first time I have faced an opponent against whom I have no course of action. He has no way to fight or take down. I will ask you one more time. Do you really have no intention of finishing me off? Kaneki replies, my decision will not change. And Arima's like, I understand. Slits his throat. So, the actions of this. One of the key phrases from this entire dialogue from Arima is that he says, have you no intention of killing me either? Either. So that means Arima, from the very beginning, did not want to kill Kaneki, which is very obvious, because when he says, I could have killed you like 645 times, I could have killed you in like 2 seconds, and he didn't. It showed that Arima was holding back. He wasn't going all out against Kaneki, and this is something that is rather strange. It's something that you wouldn't think Arima would ever do, from what type of character we've always perceived him as. And for him to say he had no intention of killing Kaneki, why would he say that? Why would he want to do that? Was it because he truly felt something for Kaneki and looked at him as a son? Or is there more meaning to this overall? Maybe it did have something to do with the son part, but what if Arima, since the very beginning, he wanted to atone for his sins, for what he has done throughout the entirety of the series? Arima is the CCG's Reaper, and he got that title because of exterminating a lot of ghouls. And I've already dived into ghouls countless times, to where ghouls are pretty much a subspecies of humans. And Arima killing ghouls, in a way, is pretty much him killing humans. He's killing people with thoughts, emotions, people that have families, children, parents. Arima has done all this. He's murdered many ghouls, and it is cold-blooded murder that what Arima has done. We have seen both sides of the story. We have seen the side from CCG, we have seen the side from the ghoul world. We know both sides. Us, as the audience, knows how it is. And Arima, I believe, knows both sides of the world as well, just as Kaneki does. Arima, I believe, at the beginning, he was exterminating ghouls because he believed that ghouls were monsters. Ghouls were just animals that wanted to feast on humans. Maybe that's how he began. Maybe that's why he started exterminating ghouls. We have no idea. We have no idea why Arima chose the path he chose. But amongst this path, we know he was a part of V. We know he was a part of this organization that was pretty much the controller of the entirety of the world. They wanted to burn every bridge that could connect humans and ghouls. And Arima, throughout his journey, he realized what he was doing. He realized how cold and murderous this was. And probably throughout the entirety of his journey of being a ghoul exterminator, his hair went white. As we know, his hair was blue. When he was younger, as a teenager, he had blue hair. But then, in his later years, we know he has solid white hair, which is like Kaneki. Now, there's a lot of parallels between Kaneki and Arima, how Kaneki is very similar to Arima, which I will get into that in a moment. But throughout all of this, one thing though is, we never really found out why Arima got white hair. Did he get tortured? Was he tortured? Or did something else happen? And one of my only conclusions after thinking about everything was maybe Arima, throughout his journey, he was stressed, he was upset, he was lonely, he was sad, he was all these emotions. He was a person that constantly was bearing this stress of what he has done, how many people he has killed, how many people he has trampled and stomped underneath his feet as he continued to move throughout his life. Maybe all this stress throughout his life built up, and the stress caused him to eventually get white hair. And the reason why he acts like he does is because he wants to kind of atone, and that's why he probably made Kaneki like he was, and why he raised Kaneki as a son, for Kaneki could surpass him and take him down once and for all. And I believe that's why, but I think there's other things to this as well. I think Arima saw himself in Kaneki. I truly believe that. I believe Arima thought Kaneki was very similar to how he was as a kid, how he was growing up, and he didn't want Kaneki to go down the exact same path that he was already down and could not turn back on. Arima died. He definitely died, and he wanted to die. For him to kill himself, there had to be some form of motive for him to want to do that. Either it was to protect Kaneki, or he just wanted to die since the very beginning, which there's a lot of reasons to why Arima might want to die, because he has done a lot. And for him to not want to kill Kaneki, it shows he has some form of heart. He has some form of human heart to where he does, in fact, care. He is not someone that lacks emotion. He is not. And if he had no intention of killing Kaneki since the very beginning, he had no intention of ever reaching where Yomo or Hinami or Toka was, or Ayato. He had no intention of ever making it over there to defeat them since the beginning. So Arima contradicted himself. It's very sad when you think about how his character is just wrapped up in so much mystery. You could think of so many things about him, and you still really don't know. And I think that is the beauty of his character. And I love what Ishida has done with his final panel in the series. Well, maybe not his final panel, because I'm willing to bet we're probably going to see him in the next chapter, probably on the ground. He might say something, probably not. I mean, he did slit his entire throat, and he's going to be bleeding out in a matter of minutes, so I highly doubt he has time to actually say anything. But I think this leaves room for one thing, and one thing that many might have overlooked but probably realize now because of the music video I made. We all know before major operations that Ghoul investigators, they write a testament. They write a testament, and it's like their will. It's their final will to anyone they want to make it to. And we've seen this in the past. I even showed it in the music video if you want to see the pictures for yourself. Arima has always, throughout his entire 18 years, every time he's done a major operation, he has left his testament blank. It's always been blank. He's turned it in blank. And from what we found out is that he always contemplates what he wants to write on it. He thinks a lot about it, but he never knows what to say. And this lets us know that he's never found a reason to really say anything or give anything to someone or even talk to anyone and give a will. And I believe this time it's going to be rather different. I think Arima walked into this fight knowing that he was going to die. I think he knew since the very beginning when he started this fight. He knew it was going to come. He never knew when it was going to happen, but he knew it eventually was going to happen. And he might have left some form of will and testament for Kaneki to read once it all is said and done. I can see Kaneki getting the message and Arima saying everything about his past, or maybe saying he thought of him like a son, or something like that. I'm willing to bet this time in Kaneki, or Arima's testament, it isn't blank. It is not blank. It is actually something that has something written on it, maybe for Kaneki to read from his father. So, one last thing I want to talk about before I wrap up this video. Arima, throughout the entirety of TG, it seems like he wanted to instigate rage inside of Kaneki. In some ways, in some sides, he was constantly a loving parent. He was a parent that cared about his child. But also, it seemed like since the very beginning, he was trying to make Kaneki built up to where maybe he might dislike him, someone that Kaneki could hate, and maybe direct his anger at. Because as we know, when Kaneki was going through trouble, and after the events of Part 1, we know he was trapped in the Ghoul prison, and he was, trapped as a prisoner, he wasn't eating, and Arima eventually walked up to him, gave him books, but then was kind of tormenting Kaneki and said he murdered everyone, he killed every single one of them, and they're all dead, and Kaneki was upset, crying, and sad. And there's really no reason for this. For a man that cares for Kaneki and didn't want to kill him, but also thinks of him as a son, why would he say those things? Why would he say those awful things to Kaneki? Was it because he wanted Kaneki to accept what happened, and maybe Kaneki to direct all that hatred and anger towards Arima to put him down? Maybe Arima wanted to die by a ghoul all along. Possibly. So that is my overall thoughts on Arima. That's just my discussion, and let me know, how do you interpret his character? This is how I interpret it. It doesn't mean it's correct. By no means does it mean it is correct, but this is how I interpret him. He's a mystery, and he should probably remain a mystery. You all have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. Please be safe. Chibi out.